They stopped him thinking he was just another man showing off his car, but what happened next made the whole city stop and watch. This is a story about respect, truth, and the heart of a real hero. Subscribe now to Black Inside USA, where real stories touch your soul. In a world where stories speak louder than words, this is Black Inside USA. Real emotions, real people, real change. The day was calm over downtown. The air shimmered with the light of early morning, bouncing off the glass towers and polished cars that lined the city square. A black luxury car rolled slowly through the street, clean, elegant, and commanding attention. Inside sat a man with steady eyes and quiet confidence. His name was Colonel David Hale, though few knew it. Dressed in a simple coat over dark tactical wear, he looked like any other well-dressed commuter. But beneath that calm, every breath carried years of discipline, leadership, and sacrifice. When the red and blue lights flared behind him, David didn't flinch. He calmly parked his car at the curb, hands on the steering wheel, and waited. Two officers stepped out. Their voices were sharp, their tone slightly tense. "Sir, we need to see your license and registration," one said, suspicion tucked behind polite words. David nodded, offering his documents without a hint of anger. The officers exchanged glances. "You own this car," one muttered under his breath, not realizing the crowd beginning to gather nearby could hear him. David's eyes met his, calm and unbothered. "Is there a problem, officer?" he asked gently. The officer hesitated. "Just routine check, sir." But the tone wasn't routine. The crowd watching could feel it, the kind of moment where silence carried weight. Phones lifted, whispers began, then, in the middle of it all, David opened his coat. Not in anger, not to intimidate, but to reveal who he truly was. Underneath, the black uniform gleamed with the insignia of a decorated colonel. Medals rested against his chest, and his tactical vest bore the markings of a man who had served his nation far beyond the city limits. The officers froze. One stepped back, eyes wide. The other's voice cracked. "Sir, you're Colonel Hale." David didn't answer immediately. He simply adjusted his coat, looked at the crowd, and said softly, "I'm just a man who came to renew a peace initiative at the courthouse. But I guess peace still has a lot of work to do." The flashback. Years earlier, David had led an elite rescue unit overseas. His leadership had saved an entire village trapped under conflict, including foreign peacekeepers. He never spoke of it. He never wanted glory. All he wanted was quiet service and a world where people didn't judge one another by appearances. Now, standing before those who had misjudged him, he saw something in their eyes, not hatred but embarrassment. And behind that, a chance for understanding. The crowd turned silent. The officer lowered his voice, stepping closer. "Sir, we didn't know. We just thought." David stopped him gently. "I know what you thought," he said softly. "And I don't blame you. We all make quick judgments. What matters is what we do after realizing we were wrong." The second officer looked down, guilt heavy on his face. The crowd around them, once whispering, now stood in quiet respect. A woman from the crowd shouted, "That's Colonel Hale. He's the one who led the Crescent rescue mission." Murmurs turned into admiration. Cameras dropped. The crowd wasn't filming anymore. They were simply watching a man who carried power with humility. The turning point. Instead of walking away, David turned toward the officers. "Tell me," he said, "how many times have you had to make a decision in seconds, one that could change everything?" The officers exchanged a glance. "Too many times to count," one replied. David nodded. "Then you understand how easy it is to let fear lead instead of truth." He took a step forward, not as a superior, but as a teacher. Every person you meet has a story you can't see. If you start with suspicion, you'll never see their humanity. But if you start with respect, you'll never need to apologize. The words hung heavy in the air. Even the crowd felt it, that line between judgment and grace. The lead officer's voice broke. "Sir, we're sorry, truly." David smiled faintly. "Then that's the start of something better." Moments later, the salute. The officers stood at attention, slowly raising their hands to salute. David returned the gesture with quiet dignity, then placed his hat back on and turned toward his car. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in respectful silence, the kind that speaks louder than applause. As he opened the car door, David looked back one last time. "Don't let today be a mistake," he said. "Let it be a message." And with that, he drove away, leaving behind not shame, but reflection. The aftermath. That night, the city's police department issued a public statement of appreciation. not just for Colonel Hale, but for the message he left behind. The two officers requested to meet him privately. When they did, they found not a lecture, but a man sharing coffee with them, talking about second chances, unity, and what it means to wear a uniform with honor. One of them asked, "Sir, why didn't you report us or make a scene?" David's answer was simple: because the world doesn't need another argument. It needs more understanding. They stopped a man over a car, but what they found was a heart stronger than any engine and a soul gentler than any judgment. When power meets humility, true respect begins. Subscribe for more stories that open hearts, only on Black Inside USA. Thanks for watching Black Inside USA. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every story deserves to be heard.